So they have a website. All right. Are we ready to go?
Yes.
Yes, we're ready, or yes, we're going?
You're up.
Are we live?
Yes, we are.
All right, good deal. Hey, Marty from Sit Rep Podcast here, and I am joined by Steve. And Steve is running this beautiful Gettysburg table, as we talked about a little bit yesterday, for those of you that follow. And Steve, you weren't here yesterday when we did a flyby, but we would love to hear you tell us a little bit about your game.
Sure thing. Second day of Gettysburg. The scale is 1 inch, 50 yards. One figure, 10 men. Heroics and Ross 6mm figures. One cannon represents 2 guns. So that's the scale of it. And so what I've done is, this is a brigade level game. And so at this point, I'm going to publish these rules, but this is the final big play test. So what I've done is, here we have a brigade. It's a small one. It has a number to it. So the number is 21. So this creates fog of war. So 21, we look back on the dashboard. And so Brigade 21, okay, is from the 5th Corps, and it's Tilton's brigade. And so that's the organizational aspect. This is the heart of the game right here. So the number refers to a number between 1 and 10 that represents its current cohesion morale.
All right.
When that reaches 0, they rout and they're gone.
Very good. All right.
During the game, you can rally troops to restore that value.
Right.
But during the game, as you take damage, physical and morale damage, that goes down. Okay. So the other thing that drives the game is this. Years ago, I've taught for 45 years, and I did a lot of Axis and Allies with my students. I found that they would ask, what do I need to roll to hit? I got tired of that, so I switched to this method. Yellow 6-sided die, 6 or better to hit. A green die, 6 or better to hit, is like rolling a 1 or 2 on a 6-sided die. A blue 10-sider, 6 or better, is like maybe 1, 2, or 3. A red 12-sider is like a 1, 2, 3, or 4. And then for the French Old Guard, if you will, a 20-sider, 6 or better, is like anything but a 1.
Right. Okay. All right. So
See
yeah,
how
there
that
you go.
works?
Yeah. So
Okay.
what do I need to hit? Yeah, I need a 6. Now
So
it's
for-
which die are you using?
For Axis and Allies, it was simply how many colors of that dice. Infantry, 20 defending, roll 20 of these, 6 or better. I went home after a 3-hour battle saying. So I started thinking, I could use this elsewhere. So I decided to do new troops, experienced, seasoned, veterans, and maybe the occasional old guard type, because I
Okay.
do Napoleonics too. This also fits for Napoleonics. So what this represents is, when this is its best. So I've done the research, other board games that have morale values.
Right.
I've translated them into this. So when they are going to shoot, they use the green combat die. When they are in a close action, at this point, they use the green combat die.
Okay.
So let's say that these guys are going to shoot. They have a frontage of 6 stands. They roll 6 dice, looking for.
A 6 or better.
Each one is a hit. And there's more to it, but you get the concept.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Now, when they're in close action, what we do is, let's have a close action here. Okay, let's get a couple of these. All right. So here we have a situation, they're charging them. And when they charge, by the way, the infantry moves 24 inches in a move. That's 1,200 yards in a half hour.
Okay.
They should move 36, a mile. But we add some friction to that. So what happens here is, they're back here, they say, we're going to go into close action. You bring them up to within 3 inches. All the other movement takes place. So now we need to resolve this.
Right.
So let's say that those guys are really good troops and they have a morale of 8. So you take a D10. Are they going in? Yeah, they're going
6
in.
or better.
Are these guys going to stand? They need a 5 or less. They got it. They stand, they fire a volley. All the hits remove individual stands,
Okay.
and then there's a chance that their morale's going down. They roll morale for each hit to see if they drop cohesion. So the 8 might end up being a 7
So
or a 6.
so they fire one volley and
Yes.
then you
Let's say those guys were at a red 8. They lose a couple stands and their morale goes down. So let's say they end up being at a 5. So instead of rolling a red die now
they're
they
rolling.
roll a green die. And these guys are rolling the green die. Let's make it a little bit different. Let's say they're down to blue. They're green. We've already done the shooting. They don't shoot as they're coming in.
Right.
They're going in. So now the big deal is, here's the close action. So they're coming in, they're standing, they fire their volley. So what are the modifiers? I've wanted to get rid of pages of modifiers. The gist of it is, from the 60s, we thought more and more physical modifiers meant more realism. We've all been down that line.
Right.
My experience as a reenactor with an artillery unit, that weekend, I just focused on the gun. I was oblivious to everything else. And that got me thinking, real human beings fall back on their training.
Right.
And they ignore the physical around them. So with that in mind, I put aside all these modifiers to get realism. It falls down on what their training is.
Okay.
The colored dots.
And then the game's not quite as crunchy. There's not quite as much bookkeeping. You can speed gameplay.
No
yeah?
charts.
Yeah.
And my players start to think about how they're going to move their troops, rather than what rule do I need to remember to get what I need to do. So watch this.
How many people can play?
So, well, it's teams. I mean, one-on-one. I did a one-on-one. I could do teams on teams.
So, like you ran a game earlier this morning, right? How many folks did you have playing?
Just one. Last night I had 6.
Gotcha. All
So
right.
it's team play.
So if it's team play, perhaps each one of them gets to be a brigade commander.
Division commander or corps commander. And what I found works is sometimes I'll have a guy, a section. One guy will handle the infantry, the other artillery. I haven't shown you artillery.
So
yet.
so they kind of get their own division of labor, whatever.
That's right.
Suits
And
them.
so here's, for instance, here's the 3rd Corps, 1 division, 2 divisions. Maybe they're a corps commander and they're dealing with 2 divisions, 3 brigades each.
Okay.
That's manageable. Another guy will deal with the artillery of the unit.
Right.
Okay. So back to this. The only modifiers that really matter is he on favorable terrain? That's a 1 difference, a +1. These guys got an overlap, a +1 for them.
Okay.
And then if you send officers in, I just want to do it like this. If I have an officer nearby and he has staff with him, he can shoot an officer within 12 inches to just pick up and do it. We're not tracking time, we're tracking the sequence of when things happen. So within that distance and a half hour, you can get him there. He gallops there.
Sure.
20 miles an hour.
Yeah, he'd probably make
That's
that little
20
move.
yards,
Yeah.
you know, and so surely you can get that. It's reasonable. People accept it as rational. So let's say this is it. So they're coming in, they're rolling blue, they have an overlap of 1, the terrain is even. This guy is rolling a green with a +1 for the officer. Let's see what happens. We got a 2 + 1 is 3, and a 3 + 1 is 4. That means a firefight. So they swaddle in, and set up some smoke in front, and that carries over to the next turn. But, if the attackers have a commander nearby, they could send one of these staff guys to it to re-roll.
But okay. I was gonna say to buff their guys, but to actually
To
re-roll.
re-roll.
Very nice.
And if that is not good enough, you re-roll again. Okay. However, if one side gets 2-1 or better, that's the end of the fight.
Okay.
And so if you get 2-1 or better, the degree of defeat, the winners always lose one stand and go down one morale level. The losers lose how many stands according to the odds against them. 5-1, they lose 5 stands, and 5-1, they drop 5 morale increments. If they hit 0, they rout, take them off the board.
Very good.
So that's the concept of it. No charts.
And I was gonna say, it seems like gameplay would go, even though there's a lot of stuff.
Yes.
There's many units and lots of, whether it's a combat action, whatever, lots of things going on. You can still.
My idea is if you got a friend and you want to do a massive battle, the two of you can do it in how many days or weekends ongoing.
Sure.
But if you have teams, I find in the end with experienced people, they do twice as many turns.
Oh, sure.
As regular. And the other thing is we're having fun.
Hopefully.
This is drama, rolling the dice,
Oh, yeah.
re-rolling, okay. Rather than doing all the modifiers, it's all one die roll. We're going to have several die rolls go back and forth here until we get a result. And if you run out of staff officers, you have committed the abstract value of your command. So scenario-wise, at second day Gettysburg, the Confederates have more staff officers to send out than the Yankees do.
Right.
So they have an edge to push the attacks. So that's basic. One other concept about artillery is that with artillery, counter battery, I'm using the old chart where, range stick, if it's here, you got to roll that number or better.
Okay. All right.
And I differentiate between Napoleons and rifled guns. Blues rifle, Napoleons are red. But the huge thing here is that's counter battery. Here's the Napoleon. They have an effective range against infantry up to 1,200 yards. So if the enemy, if they decide they're going to do opportunity fire, and we have the battery here, every single enemy unit that crosses their front within effective range might have an effect. They have to roll their morale. If they fail their morale, they go down cohesion, morale increment, and they lose a stand.
Oh,
so you don't roll the hit, they're going to be hit.
Right.
The question is it enough of a hit to lose a stand?
How much of an
but even
effect
more
does it have?
important, do the guys get bothered by the fire? So I've done an inverse approach, and it speeds things up, and frankly, it adds more realism in terms of the human experience. So what I'm shooting for here is ease of play, whether you have 2 guys or 2 teams. No sorting through pages of rules.
That's
I've been doing this for like 3 years. 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I did Antietam. It worked really well. Now I'm doing Gettysburg second day. And everyone that's played, novice, experienced, they go in, they go, well, that was fun. I'm not exhausted crunching numbers, including the GM, by the way. And then
it's all right. Make life easier on yourself as well.
And they tell me that they spend more time thinking about what to do with their men rather than trying to remember the rules.
Yeah, or flipping through a book to see, can I reach that far? Can I make this move?
So I'm going to have the audacity to say that in a sense for our real experience, you get a higher level of realism. And what I bring to that is reenacting. I command the Union Army in Chicago for a number of years. Been a reenactor since the 90s. I have that experience about combat. Okay.
Sure.
I'm a scholar. I've done the reading of the sources as well. Plus, I'm a gamer. So I brought all of that in to try and create a new way of skinning the cat.
Well, Steve, I will tell you that it's a very impressive looking table, and it sounds like you're onto something with your system. So we
hope so.
We greatly appreciate your
Thanks
time.
for coming by.
Thanks for being on the show, and
grabbed a
enjoy
flyer.
the rest of the convention.
Thank you so much.
All right, Marty
Thank
from
you.
Sit Rep Podcast signing off with Steve.
Yeah.